Alright, today we're going to talk about intervals in the C major scale, but we really could apply this to any key and how important intervals are, because once you understand intervals, and intervals, when I say intervals, I just mean the distance between different notes, which that's all music is. When you put the right intervals together, the right notes at the right intervals, and play them together, you can make chords. So that's how we begin a basic understanding of chord. It's very helpful to think of your scales and your chords in terms of intervals, because intervals don't change. They're constant. You can move them anywhere, and they always work the same way as long as the intervals are the same in relation to each other. So we're going to look at our intervals in C major, because when you play the major scale in C major, you don't have any sharps or flats. So that makes a very helpful tool for it to work with initially, because it's easy to understand. So if we start with C major in on the A string, that'll be the 3rd fret. And if the intervals for the major scale, no matter what key you're in, are going to be whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And so if we started from C major, which would be our root note or our tonic, we're going to go whole, which would be D, and then we're going to go a whole from there, which would be E, then a half, F, then a whole, G, a whole, A, another whole, B, and then another half brings us back to our tonic, C. Again, that's C, which is our root note or our tonic, whole step, D, another whole step, E, a half step, F, a whole step, G, another whole step, A, one more whole step, B, and then a half step, C. Okay, now if we want to make a chord from these intervals, all we have to do is know our intervals. So we'll start with a major triad, which is just another name for a major chord, a three note major chord, the 3 essential notes that you need to make a major chord, and then we'll go from there. And it's just we make adjustments on those triads to make different types of chords. So we'll start with our C major triad. Now the intervals for C major triad it's real simple to easy to remember. You just play the first, the major first, or the root first, the major third, and the perfect fifth. So that's the first, the third, and the fifth intervals in the major scale. So basically every other interval starting from the first one and ending on the third, or the fifth, I mean. Okay, so if we do that, we're going to play in the C major interval. It's really easy to see because we're going to play C, the root note. Now we're going to skip D, which would be the second interval, or also called the major second, and we're going to play the third interval, called which would be your E note, the major third. So we've got C, skipping D, and playing E. Now we're going to skip our fourth interval, which would be a half step right here, which would be F, and we're going to play our fifth interval, also called the perfect fifth. I'm sorry, that was the major third, is the second interval. So this will be our perfect fifth, which would be our G note. So to make a C major triad, we have C, our root note, E, our major third, and G, our perfect fifth. And voila, we have a major triad. Now all we have to do is find 2 different strings to play our second 2 notes on, because we can't play the same notes on one string, obviously. So we got our C note, our 3rd fret on our A. Our second note is our E. Why don't we play that on the 2nd fret on our D string? So we've got our C and our D. Already that's starting to look a little bit familiar. And then our G, our perfect fifth, we've already got an open G string right there. So basically all we have to do to play this triad is hold down the 3rd fret on your A, which is your C note, the 2nd fret on your D, which will be your E note, and then simply strike your G string with your pick. And already you can tell that looks like the traditional C major chord. And all you have to do is, if you'll notice, when you play the traditional C major chord with the other finger on the 2nd fret on your B string, that's also a C note that you're adding to that. And then you're also striking the high E note. So basically you've got 2 more notes that you're already playing. You're already playing a C note and an E note. And now you're adding another C note and another E note, just in a higher octave. And that's simply to make the chord sound more full and rich. Why not? If you got the notes right there, that's why the guitar is such a great instrument. And that's our lesson about intervals. Thanks.